According to Leach, other important kinds of meanings are reflected and collocative meanings. Both these kinds are generated by the association of words and their meanings with each other. In certain situations, we may use a word or one sense of the word with another sense of the word. When one sense of the word overlaps with another sense, this may generate reflected meanings. Meanings which arises in the case of multiple conceptual meanings, when one sense of a word forms part of a response to the other sense. This is how we understand it. For example, if I say an ambassador is a person who lies abroad for the sake of his country, if you focus on the word lies there, it is conveying two senses there. Lies is conveying that he lives there on one hand, and on the other hand, and on a lighter note, it conveys that one who lies, जो झूठ बोलता है for the sake of his country in other countries. I mean, he may convey a changed information to the other country he lives in for the sake of the security or prosperity of his country. This is generally what we expect from an ambassador. So lies is being used into two different senses simultaneously. So this may generate reflected meanings. One sense of a word seems to rub off on another sense when it has a dominant suggestive power, either through relative frequency and familiarity or through the strength of its associations. How one sense associates with another, it depends. One sense who has a strong suggestive power, who is socially more acceptable, may have the dominant meaning in such generation of reflected meanings. We can find reflected meanings working in the following lines of poetry also. Our limbs so dear achieved, our sides full-nerved, still warm, too hard to stir. In these lines, Owen overtly uses the word dear in sense of expensive, but at the same time, he alludes one feels in the context of the poem to the sense beloved. So he has used the word in two senses of being expensive and beloved, the word dear. So we see the reflected meaning of the word dear in these lines of the poetry. The case where the reflected meanings intrude through the sheer strength of their emotive suggestion is most strikingly illustrated by the words which have a taboo meaning. Taboo meaning create an emotive strength when we have to deal with reflected meanings of the words. Popularity of taboo sense of a certain word sometimes even eat away, sometimes even reduce the innocent or non-taboo sense of the words, because taboo words usually, looking at the history of the words and the languages, we can see taboo words becomes popular, and they sometimes eat away the innocent or non-taboo senses of the words. In such situations, we can see that in reflected meanings, probably taboo sense get prominence over other senses. Collocative meanings are those meanings which consist of the association of a word which are required by its connection with the meanings of another word which usually occurs with it. In such situations, the meaning of words which tend to occur in its environment. So words do have their own environment, their own neighborhood. Some words usually co-occur more frequently, and that becomes the habit of the users of that language. And sometimes when we disconnect them in our regular uses, it looks so strange and sometimes out of touch with reality when we say them. It may not be grammatically incorrect, but it may sound strange to the listeners. In such situations, the words which habitually co-occur and convey a certain meaning, and they have a bearing on each other's meaning, they may be called as collocations. For example, the word pretty and handsome, they mean the same thing, good looking, but they occur with different words. Let's have a look. Pretty is more commonly used with girl, women, flower, garden, color, or village, pretty girl. In comparison, handsome is more commonly used with boy, man, car, overcoat, airliner, or typewriter. So this is how they are used. But if we use handsome with the flower, let's say we say handsome flower, this may convey a certain meaning, but it would sound strange to your ears and you may not be able to understand the proper meaning. We do not deny that words do not come out of these domains. Sometimes the range may overlap. For example, we can say handsome woman and we can say pretty woman. But when we'll say handsome woman, it would probably convey a different meaning, would convey a different sense as compared to when we say pretty woman. Similarly, further examples can be found in quasi synonymous verbs such as wander and stall. We can say cause wander, we can say cause stall, but usually we say cause wander and not stall. So we can say that cause and wander, they collocate with each other. All these differences in potential co-occurrences are not to be explained as collocative meanings always. They may sometimes be because of stylistic variations of individual writers or speakers, or may also be due to conceptual differences. Collocative meanings may roughly be, to sum up, can be seen as idiosyncratic properties of individual words. There is no certain formula behind the development of collocations or collocative meanings. Words do co-occur together, and based on that or their historical usage, they develop their collocative meanings. But we do not have a scientific formula to judge the development of collocations.